contage da perci, 384 characters. There is a silence in your life right now. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of atrophy. You can feel it when you wake up in the morning. A subtle, pervasive heaviness that isn't quite sadness, but certainly isn't joy. It is a fragility. A sense that if the world were to push against you just a little bit harder than usual, you would not push back, you would fold, you would crumble. You look at the difficulties your ancestors faced, the wars, the famines, the raw, unpolished survival, and you wonder how they endured it, because you fall apart when the Wi-Fi is slow. You spiral when a text message tone is slightly off. You feel overwhelmed by the sheer maintenance of a comfortable life. And the worst part is the guilt, because you have everything. You have the comfort, the safety, the endless stream of dopamine at your fingertips. You have successfully engineered the pain out of your existence. You have curated a reality of soft edges, temperature control, and instant gratification. By all modern metrics, you have one. You are safe, you are entertained, you are pleasurable. So why do you feel so incredibly weak? Why does your spirit feel like a muscle that has been in a cast for a decade? You stand in front of the mirror and you don't see a conqueror. You don't even see a survivor. You see someone who is tired, but has done nothing to earn that tiredness. You see someone who is anxious, but faces no real danger. You are exhausted by the effort of avoiding effort. You are in pain because you have refused to suffer. Most people tell you this is just modern life. They tell you to practice self-care, to be gentler with yourself, to seek more comfort, more therapy, more softness. They tell you that your anxiety is a disorder to be medicated or a trauma to be coddled. But deep down, in that place where you don't lie to yourself, you know that's not it. You suspect that the cure they are offering is actually the poison. You suspect that you haven't become weak because life is too hard. You have become weak because you have made life too easy. You are asking yourself the wrong questions. You are asking, how can I feel better? When you should be asking, why have I lost the capacity to bear the weight of my own existence? You are terrified that you are broken. But what if I told you that you are not broken? What if I told you that your fragility is actually a perfectly functioning biological response? You have successfully adapted to the environment you created. You built a padded cell, and your soul adapted by losing its bone density. You aren't sick, you are atrophied. You have replaced the sharp, clarifying architecture of pain with the dull, suffocating sludge of constant pleasure. And in doing so, you didn't just kill the suffering, you killed the very thing that made you strong enough to call yourself alive. And if this conversation is already resonating with a part of you that has been dormant for too long, maybe it's time to join a space where we don't shy away from these truths. You know where the subscribe button is? Join us, and let's go deeper every week. Let's look at this mechanism closely. We need to deconstruct the paradigm you've been sold. For the last 50 years, arguably longer, the entire engine of our civilization has been geared toward one singular goal: the reduction of friction. We call it convenience. We call it progress. We call it quality of life. The unspoken promise of modernity is that if we can just eliminate enough discomfort, we will finally be happy. If we can just medicate away the sadness, distract away the boredom, and automate away the struggle, we will arrive at a utopia of human flourishing. This is the lie that has castrated your potential. Biologically, you are an organism designed for friction. You are the descendant of hunters, survivors, and warriors who navigated a world of immense hostility. Your nervous system, your dopamine receptors, your very muscular structure, they were all forged in the fires of necessity. They were designed to overcome resistance. When you remove resistance, you do not liberate the organism, you dismantle it. Think of the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. He foresaw this over a century ago. He spoke of the last man. The last man is the individual who has invented happiness. He blinks and says, "We have invented happiness while living a life of total mediocrity, devoid of risk, devoid of danger, devoid of the great crushing heights of human spirit." The last man seeks only warmth and comfort. He wants to be cozy. He cannot despise himself, so he cannot grow. He has no stars left in his chaos. He is a husk, preserved in a state of mild, pleasurable sedation. This is what happened to you. You didn't choose to be weak. You were seduced into weakness. You were sold a philosophy of hedonism that promised you freedom but delivered dependency. Every time you felt a pang of loneliness, you reached for the phone. Every time you felt the sting of boredom, you opened a tab. Every time you felt the ache of existential doubt, you bought something, ate something, or watched something. You treated every negative emotion as a technical error to be fixed, rather than a signal to be heeded. Arthur Schopenhauer, another heavyweight of existential thought, described life as a pendulum swinging between pain and boredom. When you struggle to survive, you are in pain. When you succeed and are safe, you fall into boredom. Your strategy has been to amputate the pain side of the pendulum entirely. You thought that if you cut the string, you would just rest in the middle, in peace. But gravity doesn't work like that. When you refuse the pain of growth, you don't get peace. You get a low-level, rotting anxiety. You get a gnawing sense of unreality. You have been trying to cheat the metaphysical laws of exchange. You want the strength of the hero without the journey of the hero. You want the resilience of the stoic without the endurance of the stoic. You want the view from the summit without the burn in your legs. And because you cannot have these things without their price, you have settled for the simulation of them. You watch movies about heroes while you decay on the couch. You read quotes about strength while you panic over an email. This is the diagnosis. You are suffering from an overdose of comfort. You are drowning in the shallow waters of your own preferences. Let me give you an analogy to make this visceral. Imagine an astronaut who is sent to a space station. In that station, the environment is perfectly controlled. The temperature is always 72 degrees. The food is prepared and easy to digest. There is no heavy lifting because there is no gravity. He floats, he moves with the flick of a finger. It is effortless. It is the ultimate freedom from the burden of weight. For the first few weeks, he feels euphoric, he feels light, he feels like he has escaped the crushing drag of the earth. But inside his body, a catastrophe is unfolding. Because his bones are no longer fighting against gravity, his body decides he no longer needs them. It begins to leach calcium out of his skeleton. His bones become porous, brittle, like dried chalk. His heart, no longer needing to pump blood against the pull of the planet, shrinks and weakens. His muscles, deprived of resistance, dissolve into useless tissue. He feels fine, floating there in the void. He feels comfortable. But if he were to return to Earth, if he were to step back into the reality of gravity, his legs would snap under the weight of his own torso. His heart would fail. The very atmosphere would crush him. This is you. Your life is the space station. Your comforts, your distractions, your avoidances, that is the zero-gravity environment. You have spent years floating. You have spent years avoiding the gravity of responsibility, the gravity of emotional confrontation, the gravity of discipline. And now, you are wondering why you feel so frail. You are wondering why the gravity of a normal bad day feels like it's going to snap your psychological spine. It's because you have osteopenia of the soul. And the tragedy is that you keep trying to fix this by making the space station even more comfortable. You think, I feel weak, so I must need more rest. No, you feel weak because you have rested too much. You think, I feel anxious, so I must need to avoid stress. No. You are anxious because you have avoided the very stress that would have hardened you into someone who doesn't need to be anxious. You are seeing the element of change now, aren't you? You are realizing that the comfort isn't the solution. The comfort is the acid dissolving your bones. The moment of disorientation you feel right now, that defensive flare-up in your chest that wants to say, but I have real problems, my pain is real, is good. That is the first sign of gravity pulling on you. It hurts because you are weak. It hurts because you are unaccustomed to truth. If this analysis is piercing through the noise, if you feel this gravity returning, consider subscribing. We don't do surface-level platitudes here. We dismantle the illusions that hold you back. If you want to rebuild your structure, stay with us. Once your eyes adjust to this dark room, you see the mechanism clearly. You see that every time you chose the easy path, you were paying with a piece of your potential. You see that your intolerance for boredom has destroyed your creativity. Your intolerance for sadness has destroyed your depth. Your intolerance for conflict has destroyed your ability to negotiate reality. You have become a ghost in your own life, haunting a house of pleasures that you can no longer even enjoy because you lack the substance to interact with them. But here is where you must be careful, because once you realize this, the immediate instinct is to swing to the other extreme. And I must warn you against false solutions. The most common response to this realization is a frantic, performative masochism. You see people doing this all the time. They realize they are soft, so they sign up for a marathon they haven't trained for. They start waking up at 3 a.m. to take ice baths and scream into the void. They adopt a caricature of hardness. They try to become David Goggins overnight. This is just another form of hedonism. It is the hedonism of intensity. You are still chasing a feeling. You are chasing the high of feeling tough, the high of feeling productive. You are treating pain as just another drug to give you a rush. This is not strength, this is just spicy weakness. It is a hunger that feeds on itself. You will burn out in 2 weeks, and you will retreat back to the couch with even more shame than before. You will conclude that you are just not built for it, and the cycle of atrophy will deepen. This escalation metaphor is critical to understand. Imagine a man who has eaten nothing but sugar for 10 years. He realizes he is sick. So, in a panic, he decides he will eat nothing but raw iron filings. He thinks, iron is strong, so if I eat iron, I will be strong. He doesn't understand metabolism. He doesn't understand that strength is not about ingesting difficulty. It is about integrating difficulty. The performative suffering is just a distraction. It is the ego trying to reclaim its territory by making a show of its own destruction. We are not looking for a show. We are not looking for a montage sequence in a movie. We are looking for a fundamental restructuring of your relationship with reality. So, what is the new paradigm? If it's not endless pleasure, and it's not performative suffering, what is it? We need to introduce a concept I call the architecture of meaningful friction. This is the new state. It is not about seeking pain for pain's sake. It is about accepting that friction is the prerequisite for traction. You cannot move forward without friction. A car on frictionless ice spins its wheels and goes nowhere, no matter how much horsepower it has. Your life feels stuck because you have eliminated the friction required to move. The new state, let's call it radical engagement, is characterized not by how you feel, but by what you do regardless of how you feel. It is a shift from a feelings-first existence to a principle-first existence. In the old paradigm, you asked, do I feel like doing this? And if the answer was no, you didn't do it. You allowed your temporary emotional state to dictate your permanent destiny. In the paradigm of radical engagement, the question changes. You ask, is this necessary? If the answer is yes, the way you feel about it becomes irrelevant. This is freedom. Real freedom. The freedom from the tyranny of your own fluctuating moods, the freedom from the slavery of dopamine. When you no longer need to feel good to function, you become unstoppable. You become dangerous in the best possible way. You become a force of nature rather than a leaf in the wind. Think about the times in your life when you were actually genuinely proud of yourself. Not the times you were having fun, the times you were proud. I guarantee you, those moments involved overcoming something. They involved being scared and doing it anyway. They involved being tired and keeping going. They involved pain. The pride was not in spite of the pain. The pride was because of the pain. The value was in the cost. You already know this. You have this knowledge buried under layers of cheap digital content and comfort food. It is there. It is the part of you that resonates when you see someone do something incredibly difficult. It is the part of you that tears up at stories of sacrifice. That resonance is your ghost limb. It is your soul remembering what it feels like to have bones. But I must warn you about something, and this is where most people turn back. You might think this sounds noble and heroic, but in practice, especially at the beginning, it sounds rather dull. It feels boring. It feels like doing the dishes when you don't want to. It feels like sitting in silence without checking your phone. It feels like having a difficult conversation with your partner without raising your voice or shutting down. It is the tedious, unglamorous work of reconstruction. You will not hear applause. You will not feel a rush of adrenaline. In fact, for the first few weeks, you will feel worse. You will feel a profound emptiness. This is the withdrawal. Your brain is screaming for its pacifier. It is begging for the easy dopamine of the scroll, the sugar, the distraction. It will tell you that this new path is pointless, that it is gray, that it is a death of joy. You must understand that this voice is a liar. It is the voice of the addict. It is the voice of the atrophy defending itself. The boredom you feel is not an absence of life. It is the presence of reality. You have been so overstimulated for so long that normal reality feels like sensory deprivation. You are like a man who has stared at the sun for an hour and now complains that the candle is too dim. The candle is not dim. Your eyes are blinded, and if you are willing to sit in that dimness, if you are willing to endure the boredom of real existence without reaching for a distraction, something miraculous begins to happen. Your sensitivity returns, the numbness begins to fade, you start to taste your food again, you start to hear the nuance in music again, you start to feel connected to the people around you again. The heavy, suffocating blanket of hedonism lifts, and the sharp, clear air of reality fills your lungs. It burns at first, yes, but it is the burn of oxygen entering a suffocated body. Let me tell you about Elias. This is not a parable from a dusty book. This is a composite of the modern tragedy I see every day. Elias was 48 years old. He was a successful architect. By every visible metric, Elias was the man. He had the corner office with the view of the skyline. He had the imported car that smelled of rich leather and success. He had a wife who was patient and children who were healthy. He had a wine cellar stocked with bottles older than his assistants, but Elias was dying. Not physically, his doctors told him he was in decent shape, perhaps a bit high on cholesterol, but nothing to worry about. He was dying metaphorically. He was dying of comfort. Every evening, Elias would come home, pour a glass of that expensive wine, sit on his Italian sofa, and turn on the television. He would scroll through his phone while the TV played in the background. He would eat a meal he didn't taste. He would go to bed, sleep for 6 hours, and do it again. Inside, Elias felt a screaming void, a persistent, high-pitched frequency of panic that never quite went away. He tried to fix it the only way he knew how, with more pleasure. He bought a boat he didn't use. He planned elaborate vacations to resorts where he would just lie on a different beach and look at the same phone. He started flirting with a colleague, not because he loved her, but because he needed the spike of validation, the thrill of the illicit to make him feel something. He was replacing pain with pleasure, over and over again, and the more he did it, the weaker he became. He couldn't handle the slightest pushback at work. He couldn't handle his son's teenage rebellion. He retreated further and further into his cocoon of expensive distractions. He was a king in a castle made of candy, dissolving in the rain. The collapse didn't happen with a bang. He didn't lose his job or his marriage in a dramatic explosion. It happened on a Tuesday, a perfectly normal Tuesday. He was standing in his kitchen waiting for the coffee machine to finish its cycle. The hum of the machine was the only sound in the house. And in that silence, Elias looked at his hands. He looked at the granite countertop, and he realized, with a terrifying clarity, that he was a ghost. He realized that he had spent the last 10 years trying to entertain himself to death. He realized he hadn't felt a genuine, unmediated emotion in a decade. He hadn't felt deep grief. He hadn't felt soaring joy. He hadn't felt the raw heat of anger or the cold grip of fear. He had only felt ... mildness, stimulation, distraction. He was safe. And he was utterly, completely empty. That Tuesday, Elias didn't go to work. He didn't turn on the TV. He didn't look at his phone. He sat in a chair in his living room and he just stared at the wall. For the first hour, he felt anxious. His hand twitched towards his pocket for his phone. He wanted to check the news, check the stock market, check the weather. He wanted to escape the silence, but he stayed. For the second hour, he felt angry. He felt stupid. He thought, this is ridiculous. I am a grown man sitting in a chair doing nothing. By the fourth hour, the tears came. Not a gentle weeping, but a heaving, ugly sobbing that came from the very bottom of his gut. He cried for the wasted years. He cried for the weakness he had allowed to fester. He cried for the person he could have been if he hadn't been so busy being comfortable. He sat in the wreckage of his own ego. He let the pain hit him. He didn't pour a drink. He didn't turn on the game. He let the pain of his mediocrity wash over him like a tidal wave, and he didn't die. That was the revelation. He sat in the fire of his own suffering, and he didn't burn up. In fact, for the first time in years, he felt solid. The pain was heavy. Yes, it was sharp, but it was real. It wasn't the nebulous, floating anxiety of the space station. It was gravity. Elias didn't sell everything and become a monk. That's the movie version. The reality is more subtle and more powerful. He went back to work the next day, but he changed the settings of his existence. When he felt stress, he didn't reach for the distraction. He leaned into the problem. When he felt bored, he didn't reach for the phone. He observed the boredom. When he felt the urge to seek validation, he recognized it as a weakness and let it pass. He began to rebuild his bone density. It took time. He had to learn how to be uncomfortable again. He started taking on projects that scared him. He started having honest, difficult conversations with his wife. Conversations that were risky, conversations that could have gone wrong. He reintroduced the possibility of failure into his life. He reintroduced the possibility of pain. And slowly, Elias came back to life. His eyes cleared. His handshake got firmer. The panic in his chest subsided, replaced by a quiet hum of readiness. He wasn't happy in the shallow, giddy sense of the word. He was something better. He was capable. He was potent. He had traded the simulation of happiness for the reality of meaning. This story is not about Elias. You know that, right? This story is about the person staring at the screen right now. It is about the choice you have to make between the comfortable death and the difficult life. And if you see yourself in Elias, if you see the ghost in the mirror, then you know why we are here. You know why this channel exists. We are mapping the escape route. Subscribe if you want the map. Now, let's move to the metaphor of transformation. Because if you choose to do this, if you choose to leave the space station and return to gravity, you need to know what the process feels like. You need to know that it is going to hurt, so that when the pain comes, you don't panic. You don't mistake the cure for the disease. Imagine a lobster. This is a biological reality, not just a poetic image. A lobster is a soft, mushy animal that lives inside a rigid shell. That shell does not grow, but the lobster grows. As the lobster gets bigger, the shell becomes tighter. It becomes confining. It starts to put pressure on the lobster's body. The lobster feels uncomfortable. It feels squeezed. It feels under immense stress. If the lobster could go to a doctor, the doctor might give it a Valium. He might say, "You seem stressed. Here is something to help you relax." If the lobster could distract itself, it might watch lobster Netflix to forget the pressure. But the lobster cannot distract itself. It has to face the reality of the pressure. The pressure is the signal. The discomfort is the instruction. It tells the lobster it is time to shed the old self. So the lobster goes under a rock formation to a place of safety, but also of vulnerability. And it begins the violent, difficult process of casting off its shell. It breaks itself open. It sheds the only protection it has ever known. And for a period of time, the lobster is naked. It is pink, soft, and completely vulnerable to predators. If a current throws it against a rock, it will be cut. If a predator sees it, it will be eaten. It is in maximum danger. But this vulnerability is the only way it can grow. During this phase, it expands. It builds a new, larger, stronger shell. And once that shell hardens, the lobster is bigger, more powerful, and capable of facing larger threats than before. You are the lobster. But you have been refusing to shed the shell. You have felt the pressure, the anxiety, the boredom, the feeling of being stuck, and instead of going under the rock to do the hard work of transformation, you have been trying to numb the pressure. You have been trying to paint the old shell. You have been trying to decorate the prison. The process of returning to strength is the process of molting. It feels like dying because something is dying. Your old identity is dying. The identity that needed constant reassurance is dying. The identity that needed to be the nice guy or the successful guy or the happy guy is dying. And that identity will scream as it dies. It will fight to survive. You will feel exposed. When you stop using your usual coping mechanisms, when you stop drinking to relax, or scrolling to forget, or seeking validation to feel worthy, you will feel naked. You will feel the raw impact of reality on your soft skin. You will feel less than, you will feel defenseless. This is the danger zone. This is where most people turn back. They feel the cold water of reality, and they scramble back to the warm, stagnant pool of their comfort zone. They say, "I tried to change, but it felt terrible. I felt depressed, I felt anxious." Of course, you felt anxious. You are a soft organism in a hard world, and you just took off your armor. But you must understand, you are not taking off the armor to remain naked forever. You are taking it off so you can grow a new, stronger skin, one that is actually part of you, not just a brittle shell you are hiding behind. This period of vulnerability is sacred. It is the chrysalis phase. It is the fever that burns out the infection. If you interrupt the fever, the infection remains. If you interrupt the discomfort, the growth stops. You must learn to reframe this suffering. When you feel that raw, shaky, exposed feeling, you must not say, something is wrong. You must say, I am molting. I am growing. This is the evidence of my expansion. Heidegger talked about Dasein, about being there. He talked about the courage to face the nothing. The anxiety you feel is the encounter with that nothingness. It is the realization that the scripts you were handed are blank. It is the realization that you are responsible for your own existence. This is terrifying, but it is also the only place where true freedom lives. So, how do we do this? How do we navigate this transition without collapsing? We need concrete instructions. We need a tactical manual for the reacquisition of strength. We are done with theory. We need practice. I am going to give you a series of non-actions and actions. The path to strength is often more about what you stop doing than what you start doing. You cannot add muscle if you are poisoning the blood. Instruction 1. The dopamine fast, the ceasefire. You must declare a ceasefire on your own brain. You are currently in a state of chemical warfare, bombarding your receptors with superstimuli. You must stop. This doesn't mean you become a Luddite and live in a cave. It means you reclaim your sovereignty over your attention. For the next 30 days, you must eliminate the sources of cheap dopamine. No scrolling, none. If you are on a social media app and you are not posting content or messaging a specific person for a specific purpose, you are scrolling. Stop it. No pornography. It is the ultimate hollow victory. It teaches your brain that you can have the genetic reward of reproduction without the effort of connection or competence. It castrates your drive. No background noise, no podcasts while you do the dishes, no music while you walk the dog, no TV while you eat. You must relearn how to be alone with your own thoughts, Pascal said. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. You are going to learn to sit in that room. When you remove the noise, the signal of your own soul will finally become audible. It will be a whisper at first, maybe a whimper, but you need to hear it. Instruction 2. Voluntary discomfort. The tempering, the Stoics, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius practiced malorum, premeditation, of evils, but they also practiced voluntary hardship. You must introduce small, controlled doses of friction into your life to recalibrate your pain threshold. Take cold showers. Not for the health benefits, but for the psychological benefit. The moment the cold water hits you, your brain screams, no. Your job is to stand there and say yes. You are training the override switch. You are teaching your brain that you are in charge, not your reflexes. Fast, go 24 hours without food once a week. Learn the difference between I want to eat and I need to eat. Learn that hunger is a sensation, not an emergency. Exercise without music. Do a hard workout with nothing but the sound of your own breath and the clanging of iron. Face the boredom of the repetition. Face the pain without the distraction of a beat. This is not masochism, this is tempering. You are heating the steel and hammering it. You are reminding your biology that you can endure.